Welcome to Wealth Champs Podcast. I'm your host, Julius Hammond. We got another fire episode coming to you today, June 22nd. Ex-football player is virtual, but before I introduce him, guys, you guys been asking for it. You guys been begging for it. I finally got the merch. Yes, Wealth Champs t-shirts. You can go on wealthchampsmediagroup.com. That's website. It's not fully done yet, but you can purchase the t-shirts there. I'm also going to have it on the YouTube channel, so make sure you guys support. Buy the thanks, super chats. Everybody who's been supporting me behind the scenes, love you guys, appreciate you guys. Let's keep it going. So for today's podcast, today's episode, I have a man who's a father, who's a pastor, who's a ex-football player, but he also was an ex-felon. He has a great story, and he's going to come to you now via virtual. His name is Sterling Harris. How you doing, Sterling Harris?
Man, bro, it's a great to have you. Great to be on. And wealth champs, bro. Come on, son. I need a t-shirt.
There you go.
I'm going on the website and copying me one of those, son, all the way, Jay.
That's all good, man. You know what? I'm gonna gift you one, man. You don't have to do it because you're a guest, man. The guests get gifts, man. They don't have to go purchase nothing. It's all good. I appreciate.
Oh, praise the Lord. Okay, all right, man. What's up?
I appreciate
ice me up, baby. Ice me up.
That's right. No, man. I really appreciate you coming on, man. And thank you, your publicist. She hooked us up, and I appreciate you coming on. Your story was phenomenal, man. Me being a former football player, I didn't get all the way to the top like you did, but that just to know that you were in those circles, being in the NFL and everything, that was amazing, man. I was like, man, to get him on the show, that's going to be amazing. So thank you for being here.
Man, it's an honor, bro. It really, really is. And no matter what level of athletics you get to, it's so important that people are involved in athletics and involved in extracurricular activities, because it really teaches you a lot about life, teaches you how to get knocked down and get back up again, teaches you about teamwork, teaches you about being flexible on time, different things like that. And so, companies around the world, organizations around the world, that's why they ask you those questions on your resume. Did you play sports? What activities were you involved in? Because even if you didn't play in the NFL, football, basketball, all those different sports will teach you a lot about life and resilience.
Absolutely. Well, before we get into the NFL experience and your journey through there, tell the audience and the world a little bit about Sterling Harris, the person. Like, how did you grow up and things of that nature before we start getting into the other things that you do?
Well, first, before anything, Jay, I'm a man who loves Jesus.
There you go.
And that's what my life is. My life is driven by and compelled by my love for him. And I make my daily decisions based on the inward leading of what I believe he's telling me, whether it's a flowing thought, a mental picture, that voice in the back of your mind that a lot of people chalk up to, just that voice in the back of their mind. That's actually, a lot of times I would submit to you that's the voice of the Holy Spirit, the voice of God. And that little gut feeling that people actually get that sometimes they ignore and then they get in a wreck. I would also submit to you that's the inward witness of the Holy Spirit trying to guide you by peace or lack of peace. And first and foremost, I'm a lover of Jesus. And out of that, I'm a father, I'm a businessman, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a pastor, I'm a published author. All those different things are rooted and grounded. My foundation is hearing God's voice and knowing him. And our ministry and my life is all about equipping people, whether it's people at the business that I work at, or people that I meet on the street, or people that I meet in ministry, is equipping people all over the world to hear God's voice for themselves. Because when you're able to do that, you can tap into the true wealth that God has for you, which is spiritual, material, and financial. God's not lax on pouring it all out on you. He's got plenty of all the resources you will ever need to accomplish your purpose. And see, I didn't always know that, Jay. I grew up in Terrell, Texas. I'm a Jamie Foxx.
Jamie Foxx, yeah. Jamie Foxx, yes. Absolutely.
My brother's out there in LA with him right now. My brother's out there grinding. He's been out there for about 10 years. He's in the fitness business, but also in the model and acting business. He mostly does like commercials and different things like that. He hasn't he hasn't hit it big like Jamie yet, but he's out there on his grind, bro. And I love it. I just talked to him last night when he was out in LA.
Wow.
He's actually looking to open up his own fitness studio, but he's a savage, bro. But I really didn't know God's voice when I was growing up. I grew up in Terrell, Texas, a small town outside of Dallas, Texas. And I grew up, I would say, in the church, kind of religious. And I say religious, meaning that it was all about works. It's all about trying to be a good person. It's what I call white knuckle Christianity, which is really like you're working harder and trying to do better to get God to love and bless you, when it's not based on what you do, it's based on what Jesus did for you. But for so many years of my life, I didn't know that. And that led to this divine frustration. So I had an encounter with God, and he spoke to me in my heart when I was 12 years old, when I gave my life to him. But then after that, I just kind of got church attendance and religion, which Christianity is not a religion. It's had a religion made out of it. People ask me, oh, son, were you religious? I'm like, no, I'm not religious at all. I have a spiritual relationship with Jesus.
There you go.
Where I know him and I hear his voice. The church attendance and religious duty has nothing to do with my life at all. The fruit that you see in my life, the peace that you see on me, the blessing you see on my life, it's because I have a spiritual love relationship with Jesus, and that's where my life is. But for so many years, I grew up. As I grew up in Terrell, Texas, I grew up. I was somewhat athletically gifted, but I was one of those kids that was big and awkward and different things like that. And a lot of people counted me out, including coaches. I mean, there was people who literally said that I would probably never even play a snap of varsity football in high school. And, there was this voice in the back of my mind that I now know is the voice of God. But back then I had no idea. I just thought it was that motivational Rocky movie I had watched or something.
Oh, yeah.
And I just had this feeling and this unction in my heart. You know what, kid? You can achieve if you're willing to do what others aren't willing to do to be the best you can be, which means staying late after practice, going before practice, working on the things that were not my strengths to make my weaknesses much, much stronger and make them on par with my strengths. And I was always looking at, how can I better myself? And I know that inward witness, that inner unction, that inner thoughts and feelings, I now know was the Holy Spirit guiding me even at a young age. And because God had put a plan and a purpose inside of me for so many different things, one of them being football. And I just partnered with that over a amount of time. And I went from people counting me out to being all area, all state, all district, all American. And I tell people all the time, it's not because of just gifts that God gave me. It's because I was willing to do what other people weren't willing to do. I was willing to, not party and do all the things other people were doing. I did some of that. But I made decisions based on, is this good for my future? And I still make decisions based like that. Is what I'm thinking, is what I'm doing, is what I'm saying, is the decisions I'm making, is that going to benefit my family, my relationship with God, my business, whatever kind of decisions I'm making? I try to, analyze with the Lord and try to get his wisdom on the decisions that I should make. At the same time, when I was growing up, I didn't know God's voice. I just knew church attendance and religion. And it left me, there's this void in our heart that's made for God, that every single person on this earth. And there's so many times that people don't even know there's a void, but there is. And for me, I tried to fill that void with partying and drugs and I mean, you name it. My testimony is I've tried everything from the party scene to the philanthropic scene and the business scene. It doesn't matter what thing it is. I've kind of lived the spectrum in my life. The one thing I've realized is without a true love relationship with Jesus, it's all meaningless. It really is, because at the height of my money making, when I was in my 20s, I was around people that were around me that were worth 50, 100 million plus dollars, private jets, the whole nine. And they had the same issue I had, which was a lack of fulfillment. But see, when you get all these other stimulus in different places, and you don't know that there's access to God, you just try to get your fulfillment, all these different other kicks. So I tried the party scene, I tried the philanthropic scene, I tried, going to church, I tried all the stuff that you can try, good, bad, and ugly. And I finally came to the end of myself, man, around 25. And I was like, you know what? I was in a club in downtown Dallas dancing on a couch in VIP. And I just looked around at my friends and I said, I got the big house, I got the big watch, I got the big car, but I don't have any true peace of fulfillment. And I just looked out at the laser lights and the smoke and I said, you know what? There's got to be more. And I just went on this spiritual journey, looking for the real relationship with God. And it took me years to find it because I didn't know it was available, because I grew up in religion. I grew up in church attendance. That's the only thing you could really do is serve at your church. There was no God available to you every day. And now I know, and that's why my heart burns to equip people every day to hear God's voice, because a lot of times in my 20s, I wasn't listening to the voice of God. I wasn't listening to that inner witness. I wasn't listening to the voice in the back of my mind when I went to make business decisions. And I just remember when I got out of the NFL, I got into the real estate insurance business, and I had a real estate insurance practice. And I did a deal when I first got out of the NFL, which seemed too good to be true. But in my mind, I was like, okay, well, my NFL career ended early because of injury.
Okay.
This is like, I believe that back then that everything that happened to you was God's will for your life, which is not true. A lot of people still think that's the case, but people would say, Sterling, you know what? They would say, hey, why are you so big? Like, why are you huge?
Yeah.
And I'd say, I'd be like, I played football. Where'd you play football? I played football for the Cleveland Browns. And, I tell them a story about how my foot broke and had 2 injuries and had to retire and those things. And people always say it very well-meaningly, but they'd say, brother, God's got another plan for your life. But all I heard in my religious mind is that God broke your foot to give you a dream that you don't even know about, that it took your dream away from you, which wasn't the case. I mean, I played a violent sport by violent people, played by violent people, and, injury is part of the game. And plus I had made football this idol, this identity in my life. And I tell people all the time, whatever you set up as your identity that's not rooted and grounded in your relationship with Jesus is subject to be torn down and be destroyed by the enemy. We have an enemy out there, man. And it doesn't matter if your identity is your kids, your wife, your career, bro, you're just asking for pillaging, killing, stealing, destroying, destruction to come in your life. Sometimes it's super on the low, and sometimes it's very, out there direct. But sometimes the worst thing people can get is money. You know what I'm saying? If you're not prepared for it, bro, it'll destroy you. Yeah. I've seen that happen time and time and time again. I mean, everybody's how many people you see on TV, bro? You're like, man, they're famous, they're rich. Why are they so messed up?
Yep.
It's because, just when I heard Steve Harvey say this, and he said, money just allows you to be more of who you already are.
Yep.
And so if you don't actually change the core heart in you, if you want a nice person when you got money, you're going to be even that much more arrogant and prideful when you get money.
Yep.
And if you are loving and forgiving and you're all about, getting your heart right, then you're gonna do even more stuff to continue to get your heart right and continue to help others. It's just really how it is. He said that, and I was like, bro, I've seen that so many times play out with so many friends of mine, acquaintances, the nine. And so when I not listening to God got me in some trouble, man, I did this real estate deal, and 5 years later, 9 months later, I realized these guys aren't doing the right thing, wash my hands of the deal,
okay,
just move on. Hey guys, I can't do business with you if you're going to do business like that. Not think anything of it. And then 5 years later, I get indicted by the FBI.
Whoa. Because
I was the realtor and they rolled me in their conspiracy. And people say, watch the company you keep.
Yes.
Like, that's true, bro. I mean, you watch the people you do business with, because what you don't know can hurt you.
Yes.
And for me, it cost me 70 months in federal prison.
Wow.
And I spent three and a half years in federal prison for a crime I didn't knowingly commit.
Yeah.
And I remember when I got my time, bro, I thought they were going to give me a probation, because I was, at the time, I was a motivational speaker for kids. We had just put in for our 501(c) nonprofit. I had a 6-figure business, former NFL player. I really thought they were going to give me a slap on the wrist, and they did not. They threw the book at me. And let me ask you real quick before you keep going.
hit on that a little bit, because that people really need to know that story. You're in the NFL now. You went through your whole life and got to the NFL. That's hard as it is to be able to do that, to go through Pop Warner to all the way to to college, to all the way to the pros. So congratulations for doing that. But then now you're in the NFL, and then all this stuff is happening. So you do the deal. You don't know who you don't know the people's integrity and their character. That's why it's crazy, because my wife always tells me, look, you make a lot of money, honey, you're dealing with a lot of people who got a lot of money, but your name is worth more weight than gold. I believe that's in the Bible as well. And so when your names get sullied and you're dealing with the wrong people, you don't know what their intent is and what their conduct is, their character is. So elaborate a little bit more on that. So you're in the NFL and you're doing this deal. It goes sour because you're dealing with the people who, you're playing football. You're doing what you love, and you're dealing with the people who you might not know them extensively, but you go ahead and do the deal because they portray themselves to be real estate investors or people who are more knowledgeable in this deal. So you give them money, and then what happens from there? Go continue with that story.
So I always tell people, trust but verify.
Yes.
Had I just had NFL security check them out, which they did for free, but I'm thinking, I'm a real estate agent.
Mm-hmm.
I'm representing them on real estate. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? I'm young, ambitious, naive,
okay,
and I'm just making a sale here, and I'm just thinking, if they buy the homes and they burn down, I mean, it has nothing to do with the realtor, which in reality, it really doesn't.
Yeah.
But when you start talking about conspiracy, which I didn't know about,
mm-hmm.
Then there's this whole other thing. That's why I tell people, trust but verify.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. There's a lot of people. I mean, I could just name names of people who've made the headlines that you're like, whoa, they were embezzling.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I mean, people thought Bernie Madoff was a super good dude.
Yes, they did.
He had clout, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, he was like the dude at the NASDAQ. I mean, that's a very, 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 very prestigious position he had.
Yeah, absolutely.
And people didn't know, man, he was not doing the right thing.
No.
In some respects, you gotta go with that gut feeling. Like if you have a gut feeling and you're like, oh, I don't feel good about this,
mm-hmm.
about this deal, about this person, man, take it to the Lord. Try to hear his voice, and until you have peace about it, like real peace, not just like I'm gonna shove it under the rug because there's a lot of money at stake peace.
Yes.
But a lot more, and just like, well, what's the worst that can happen? Well, in my case, it cost me millions of dollars and 3.5 years in federal prison of my life. So, I mean, what you don't know can hurt you. So I just tell people, trust but verify, but ultimately listen to that gut feeling. People could become more inwardly aware of, do they have peace about this? Do they not have peace about it? And there's a lot of times I'll meet people in business and I just want to have peace about something they're doing or something they're saying, even though in reality, it may make dollars, but to me, it's like,
it's not making sense. Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's not making sense inwardly. And I tell you, man, I used to dismiss that, and I've gotten myself in a whole bunch of wrecks, and everybody has had that gut feeling about something and not listened to it and then gotten a wreck.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is, after they got in a wreck, people don't really hone in on becoming internally aware about, do I have peace about this? Do I not have peace about this? I tell people, if you would just do that, that's part of hearing God's voice. Just, do I have peace about this person that I just met with, about doing business with them? Do I'm praying about this business deal that I'm going to go into, do I have peace about it? I mean, there's always going to be some tension because you're putting money at risk.
Mm-hmm.
You're putting time at risk. You're putting sweat equity at risk.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, man, be inwardly aware of what's going on internally, and do you have peace about that situation? Because if you just do that, 90% of the time, you're going to not wind up in a wreck.
That's true. Absolutely. It's just called using discernment. And we all go through that. I mean, I'm a businessman. You're a businessman. I kind of went through, I didn't go through the NFL ranks, but I went through the same thing where, and it's in my book, Die Empty While Living a Full Life, on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles right now. So when you guys get a chance, cop that. But in my book, I talk about how I trusted someone on a business deal. They took money from me, stole, because we was on the same account, took my money and his money, and just ran away with it, and it caused me to be homeless for 6 months. So there's a book right now that I'm part of a book club. We're reading. It's called by Stephen Covey, The Speed of Trust. And in that book, he's talking about different variations of trust. And one variation he's talking about with trust is called relationship trust, relational trust. You have to have a relationship with a person. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. And so when you're just doing on a surface level, like you said, on a surface level, when you're doing business and you're exchanging financial energy with people, it's like, okay, well, we can make a lot of money, but you don't know what that person's character is like behind the scenes. You don't know who you're dealing with. It's the reason why they call it wolves in sheep's clothing. The person looks good on the surface, but if you don't use good discernment, you definitely could be getting into bed with the devil and you won't even know it unless you use discernment in order to discern that.
Yeah, man. I've had I think every probably great business person at one time in their career has had embezzlement.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that, it's hard to bounce back from emotionally and financially sometimes, and even spiritually, because I remember when I had a business partner embezzle, quite a bit of money on a business deal that really would have retired me. Like, wow. I wouldn't have retired, but I mean, it's one of those business deals, you close them and you're
set. Yep.
You're set. Mm-hmm. You're set. And so, he ended up just taking, and being super, 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 super set.
Wow.
And I had to walk through a lot of, forgiveness and things like that. And, we went through the whole lawsuit and got a federal judgment, but it's hard when you're especially doing overseas business. It's hard to get one of those federal judgments to stick, overseas.
Because you're dealing with international law.
Mm-hmm. Yo, man, international law is a beast, bro. So it was like but we did find out he embezzled the money. We did not find out he was super, super rich.
Okay.
And, at least I knew, I knew we closed the business deal and the business got done. And, even though I didn't get any of the money, at least I can say, I closed a very, very large transaction at one time in my life, and probably one of the largest definitely the largest I've ever closed. Unfortunately, I didn't get paid for it.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
So it's one of those things, man, that again, when you need to check your gut and check your inner intuition and check your discernment and just not look at the dollar signs.
Yeah. Because
I wasted a lot of time doing business with several people like that, never to that totality. And it's kind of like your situation. There was probably, if you look back at your situation, there was probably some kind of checks in your gut at that time.
Yep.
It may have been small, it may have been large,
and I ignored it.
There was probably some checks in your spirit, and you just ignored it because the money's right.
Yep.
Or at least it looks right.
Yeah. Absolutely. Looks right on paper. And when we're talking about it, everybody's like, oh man, we about to make XYZ amount of dollars on this. And you just get tunnel vision instead of using discernment.
Exactly. Exactly.
Talk about being in the NFL just for a little bit before we go to your business and fully in your, because a lot of young men, obviously I played football, you did, and I know a whole bunch of football players, former and current. I used to coach AAU football, so a lot of my kids right now, they're graduating high school and going off to play D1, D2 college and all that stuff, and hopefully in the NFL. But talk about actually being in NFL. I mean, you don't have to go too much into politics and behind the scenes and stuff. Everybody can kind of use their imagination, but what exactly is that like? Because I know as you go up, I know when out of high school, when I went to junior college, but as soon as you get to college, it starts getting political after that. It's like, well, I know I'm better than this guy, but this person is the coach's son or whatever, so I got to start him or whatever, right? So kind of talk about the politics and the little thing behind the NFL. How is that being in there?
I rarely get asked that question. Oh my goodness. Well, that's not scripted, so I'm going to go ahead and tell you exactly. The NFL is a cutthroat business.
Yes,
it is. It was a dream realized, and again, you can have these mountaintop moments, but if you don't have true peace and fulfillment, you'll just be mad and frustrated when you get there. Because when I got to the NFL, I just thought, I realized my dream. I've worked thousands of hours to get here, many, many years to get here. I made it. I'm making good money. I've got the status, I got the power, I got the money,
there you go.
But I didn't have the fulfillment. But as far as the politics are concerned, the NFL is a very cutthroat business. So the NFL, a lot of people don't know this, but they don't have guaranteed contracts to the NFL for 97 to 98% of the players. Only the top 1 to 2% of the NFL have guaranteed contracts.
Oh, wow.
So out of the 63-man roster, 53 active man roster, you may have 2 to 3 people with partly guaranteed money. And the quarterback may have like an 80 to 90% guaranteed contract, but it's all about leverage in the NFL. Like Dak Prescott, he has leverage.
Yes.
So the more leverage you have, the more guaranteed money you have.
Yes.
But see, just all the people protect him on the offensive line, even the left tackle that's making, buku's amount of money.
Yeah.
There's only 50% of his contract is probably guaranteed. But again, superstars don't make up the NFL. It's all the actual people like myself that just played in the NFL that really make up the actual manpower of the NFL. And for those people, you're living paycheck to paycheck, year to year. And even my friend Jeff Garcia, when he signed a big deal, he was in San Francisco with
I remember
Owens,
Jeff,
signed a big deal with us at Cleveland, and they cut him after the first season. He signed a $5 million contract. I think he got $1.5 million, $2 million of it.
Yeah.
So the next 3 years, the NFL is a one-sided contract. If you outplay your contract, you have to either hold out or you have to stick with your contract.
Yeah.
That's why Antonio Gates was like the top tight end in the NFL, and he was making, because he was such a low round pick, he was making league minimum.
Yes, he was.
So people that weren't even half as good as him were making 10 times more than him. And because he outplayed his contract. But if you underplay your contract, they can cut you at any time in the NFL.
Wow.
So it's a very cutthroat business. It's probably more cutthroat than every other sport, because every other sport has guaranteed contracts.
Yes.
You sign a $100 million contract, $5 million contract in the NBA or the NHL or the NBA, you're going to get every single dollar of that contract.
Especially baseball.
Every single dollar.
Derek Jeter, Alex Rodriguez, Miguel, I can't remember his name. He used to play for the Boston Red Sox, but they all played out I think Alex Rodriguez did a 10-year contract and got paid on all 10 years. I'm like, this is crazy. This is crazy.
I had a friend of mine in the NBA. He got cut off the Orlando Magic.
Okay.
And because he had 2 years left on his deal, they had to pay him. They had to pay him.
Wow.
And so if you ever see these in NBA and NHL and Major League Baseball, sometimes you'll see that they traded somebody's contract who hasn't played in years. I can't remember the last time I saw it. It was a pretty big name player, but he had gotten injured and he hadn't been playing for a couple of years.
Okay.
And they traded his contract to another team based on a trade they did. So they were moving around money, basically.
So they did like a 1031 exchange and equivalent to that, right, in real estate.
Exactly.
Okay.
They're like, we'll give you this player, but we also want you to take on this debt that we have.
Got you.
Of this 2 years outstanding on this guy's contract who doesn't play in Major League Baseball anymore.
Wow.
So the NFL is very cutthroat because of that, because the owners have all the leverage. They have all the leverage. And you have to really outplay your position and be a standout player to have any leverage in the NFL. And even those people, they have as much leverage as their play gives them.
Yeah.
I mean, Tony Romo, when his leverage ran out, so did his time in Dallas.
Yep.
But for a while there, he had leverage. So it's just, the NFL there is politics involved. There is like inner workings. Like, okay, like for me, I was a priority free agent because I went to SMU and we didn't win a game.
Okay.
Even though I might have been better than the 6th or the 7th round pick, they would cut somebody like me and keep the 6th or 7th round pick because
he's
internally
cheaper.
They said they'll say this. They'll say the owner will go to them and say, why did you draft this guy in the 6th round and you cut him and kept the free agent? So did you make a mistake and you weren't really scouting really good?
Wow.
So so they'll just cut you and basically hire you back on the practice squad and kind of like mold you and shape you, and then they'll put you on the roster the next year. They do kind of sneaky stuff like that behind the scenes. So I rarely get asked that, what's the politics like, bro? But it's, when my brother went to the NFL as well, he went to the Tennessee Titans. He played there with Vince Young.
Yes.
And he thought I was just like, he's like, Sterling, I thought you were exaggerating. I really, really did. Mm-hmm. He said, and then I got there and then I realized, whoa, this is exactly what Sterling said it was. And you have to be your own individual business there. And you have to make very selfish decisions based on you and your family. And it's different because you're not used to that mindset. Your mindset is, I'll give up my body and everything for this team.
Yeah.
But when you get to the NFL, it has to be about you.
Yeah.
And you have to make decisions based on you and your family. And it's a much different mindset. And that's why you see a lot of people playing hurt when they shouldn't.
Yeah.
Or a lot of people making decisions when they shouldn't. And you see also guys holding out, on their contracts. And people say, I wonder why. There's a lot going on behind the scenes because they know that a lot of people can't do that. And they also know that they better get while they getting's good, because the average NFL lifespan is only 3 years and 4 games. That's the average NFL lifespan is a little bit under like 4 years. And you have to play 3 years and 5 games to get your pension.
Yep. And it's crazy that you say all that, because the average fan doesn't really understand how that all goes on. The only thing they see is they might be at the stadium. They want to see their favorite player on the field, right? Or they might be at the house looking from a screen, and they're like, "Man, I want to see my favorite player go, playing on the field." I'm a Cowboy fan, so I've been like, so I know all that stuff, man. I was there with T.O. and even back then with Aikman and Emmett and Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders, actually, I just saw it in the news a little bit before we got on our episode here that he's going into emergency surgery, so we're going to pray for Deion Sanders too.
Oh man,
I know he's been having some kind of foot issues and all that stuff. So, but hopefully, well, I know God will pull him through. But he's meant a lot to not just football, but just to men. Period. He's a mentor as well.
Yes. Yes.
But
awesome.
the average fan don't know what's going on, and so when I see people like Darrelle Revis, because he was such a prime individual, he was a shutdown corner. He did, I think he's the most recent one that I can remember. He did an actual where he held out and he got the most bang for his buck. I think maybe even after Darrelle Revis is Kirk Cousins. He always gets like 1 year or 2 year minimums. He'll sign, what's that thing when they sign, what's
salary cap?
Salary, yeah, they'll do all that. No, but it's called something else when they franchise you. Yeah, franchise, when they franchise tag you. Yeah, so when he franchise, he's been doing franchise, but he's making like $30 million for the year or $50 million for the year or whatever, some crazy number for 1 year.
Yeah,
I'm like, that's crazy, but they do that because, like you said, they know all the ins and outs and the politics and stuff behind the scenes, and all it takes is one hit, and you're done. Your career could be done. Even with the modern medicine and everything that's going on right now. I'll give you an example. My uncle, he's works for Chase Bank finance department. But before that, he played football. He played at San Diego State University and then went to go play for the Rams back in the 80s. He had a torn meniscus and an ACL in his knee, and he was done. His career was done. Now you do that, it's like, okay, you can come back probably 9 months, a year, or whatever, with modern medicine and everything. They shoot you up, they do whatever they do behind the scenes after surgically repairing it, and you back out there. So, it's people don't, the average fan don't understand how that stuff really works. All they want to do is, I want to see Sterling Harris on the field. That's all I want to see.
Yeah.
They don't see nothing behind the scenes.
And the thing about it is what they don't realize is that you're seeing, when you see these big contracts, you're seeing the top 1 to 3 people on each football team. It's not like that for the majority of the people that play in the NFL. I mean, you still get paid a lot of money to do what you do, but when you really, I tell people all the time, the average NFL player, let's say they play 4 years and they make $4 million. They pay taxes at the highest tax bracket as a W-2 employee. Say they tithe, they're down to $2 million. 50% of their money's gone over 4 years. Let's say they said they were smart and only spent $250 a year out of that $1 million. Now you're down to $1 million.
Yeah.
Can anybody live on $1 million for the rest of their life? No.
Doesn't matter what economy it is. You can't do that. No,
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can't, even if you're getting 20 to 30% of your money,
yeah,
which you're not going to get.
Yeah.
You know, not many people could raise a family on $30,000 a year solely on income. And you're not going to get that kind of interest off of $1 million, especially not where you can not lose all your principal. So I often tell people, you know, the NFL it's a very interesting business. It really, really is. And it's a business. But you're also entertainment. You're also living out your dream. You're also getting paid a lot of money to hit people and things like that. I think people get it so skewed because they see a couple guys getting super paid, but it's just not like that across the board.
And then in every state, in every city, in every state, you're getting taxed on every state. And so that's a different tax. If you play in California, that's a different tax bracket. You play in Texas, even though there's no state tax, that's a different tax bracket to a certain degree. You go in Kansas City, the players are getting taxed per state and per city, correct? If I'm not mistaken, right?
I
Similar,
think
something like that.
Where you earn your money is where you're like is so if you're in Dallas, I'm not sure if they changed it, but like say you're in Dallas,
okay.
So majority you don't pay state taxes, but if you go and play in California, like you pay the San Francisco 49ers, for that week since you earned your pay in San Francisco, they used to tax you based on what city you played in as far as the cities are concerned. They would take the city tax. They may have changed that now where that's not the case. But if you played in San Francisco and you're a 49er, you have to keep in mind that you're going to pay state taxes. That's why a lot of business people are moving out of California because the state taxes are
ridiculous.
They're ridiculous.
I know. Trust me, I know.
It's just too high. People literally can't afford to stay there because they're like, I could go to Florida and live just as lavish and not pay state income taxes, like
wow,
and live at the beach. You know, so a lot of people there's been a mass exodus over the last 5 or 6 years out of California. Although it's still beautiful out there, it's still plenty of people in Newport, still balling out of control. You know, still paying those gigantic state taxes. But there's a lot of people that have chosen to leave there, just because of the massive amount of taxes those people pay. Yeah. But that's a little insight into behind the scenes in the NFL. It's grimy, bro. It's grimy.
No, thank you for that, man. Thank you. So let's move forward to the other subject. So your business. Obviously, you do real estate, and you're a speaker, and you have your ministry, which is called Sterling Harris Ministries. Talk about your businesses and things like that, and incorporate your family with that, and how all that comes together for you, for your life.
Yeah, man. So when I got out of prison, I was living with my parents, and God had given me all these amazing promises and words about how He's going to redeem my name, how He was going to raise me up and make my name great, and how He was going to restore the years that I lost and the things that I lost while I was in federal prison. And I was like, yeah, God, that's nice. And I stewarded what I had at the time. At the same time, there was this other voice coming at me like, look at your bank account, kid. You know, look at where you are living with your parents. And I just chose not to listen to that accusatory voice that came from a combination of my own soul and also from the enemy, the demonic realm.
That's right.
And a lot of people don't realize that some of that comes from you and some of that comes from other places. And so I just was faithful to what God was calling me to do, listen to what He called me to do. I ended up getting married to a great, great woman. And, you know, like any great marriage, it comes with great sacrifice. So I tell people, you know, marriage is a refining fire of God. Yeah. So don't think that you're going to live happily ever after. Marriage takes work.
Yes.
I got 2 awesome kids. I got a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, a girl and a boy, and they're just awesome. But raising kids is a gigantic sacrifice.
Yes.
It's gonna really, really work on you as far as your patience and your love is concerned. And what you put into them, you're gonna get out of them. And sometimes a lot of people don't like the way their kids acting, but what are you putting into them? Are you putting in anger, frustration, you know, irritation?
Wow.
How are you managing them on a daily basis? I manage my kids by the word of the Lord, meaning that I say, God, help me respond to my kid as they're going in their meltdown mode. I'm literally praying like, God, give me patience to handle this in a right way. And sometimes I handle it in a right way, and sometimes, you know, I got to apologize to them because, you know what, Daddy got upset.
Yeah.
And so the whole thing about it is practicing repentance and practicing apologizing and demonstrating and modeling for them emotional intelligence. Because emotional intelligence, it doesn't happen by osmosis.
That's true.
My parents used to yell and scream and all stuff like that. And then they go in their room and sweep it all on the rug. And then I was like, well, how did that work? So, I mean, a lot of people don't know how to emote themselves properly because they never had it modeled. And one thing we try to model around my house is emotional intelligence. But when I got out of a federal prison and ended up getting married, we were broke. We had pretty much almost nothing. I was finishing the book that I wrote, How to Hear God, 10 Ways God Speaks. It's available on Amazon as well as with my homeboy's book. And I was finishing that book up, and my godmother called me. She said, Sterling, I just lost my number one client. They just reduced their freight volume. She moved 18-wheelers all across the country by about 80 or 90%. So she went from moving like 100 to 130 loads a week to 30. So you don't have to be a math genius to realize that she was probably going to go bankrupt and close her doors.
Absolutely.
And I said, well, PJ, let me pray for you. And she's like, I don't want you to pray for me. I want you to pray for me, but I don't want you to pray for me. I want you to come to work for me. And I said, well, PJ, I don't think I'm going to go back into the sales business. I'm thinking I'm going to go into traditional church ministry, like an actual church position. And I said, but you know what? I always tell people, you got to take it to the Lord. You got to hear his voice. So let me pray about it. I prayed for her. I prayed about it that night. I had a dream about moving 18-wheelers. And I took it to the Lord and said, God, what is this dream about? And I just remember like an inner witness. Go and help your godmother. It'll be a blessing to you and a blessing to her. And the first year, I barely made any money. I was like right above poverty level. We had our first kid on Medicaid, Texas government assistance. For those of you who aren't in Texas, it's basically like a Texas welfare type of program. And so obviously we didn't have any money to qualify for that. You have to be at a poverty level, in which we were. And I remember I was almost going to quit because I was like, this isn't working. I'm not making any money. And then I had another dream where this big 18-wheeler was drilling for gold and hitting gold. And I woke up and God said, there's gold in this business for you if you'll just keep drilling. So I just kept calling, kept banging the phones, kept networking. Second year comes, I make a little bit more than poverty level. So I'm a little bit over poverty level right now, but not enough to sustain any kind of, life for my wife. And now I have one child at this point. And I just kept drilling, man. I kept doing the right thing. I kept living my life by excellence. I kept praying every day. I kept making decisions based on integrity.
That's right.
Even when nobody was looking. For instance, and I would pray about who to call, and I would pray about loads that I need to get covered, and 18-wheelers I need to cover certain loads for me. And it was so funny because when I first started doing that, people in my office thought I was crazy. And then they said, Sterling, over time, I saw this happen hundreds of times. And then now it's happened like so much I can't even count. And she was like, I thought to myself, God will do this for Sterling about some loads that don't even matter. What will he do for me in my own life?
There you go.
And so I was constantly trying to demonstrate how you hear God's voice practically within business. I'd need to know what to bid on certain lanes. I'd pray about it and I'd see like a number in my mind. But then I had people in my office start doing the same thing, and they would get a number either closer to mine or like the same number I was getting. So I was equipping them to hear God's voice for themselves. And the third year, God supernaturally breathed on my business, increased it by 400% year over year. We went from going bankrupt to having our best year in business in the 25 years the business had been operational.
Wow.
And then the next year after that, we did what we did that prior year in 7 months in revenue, crashed through our best year ever by millions of dollars, went to an eight-figure business revenue-wise, and, haven't looked back since, and still doing very, very well, this year revenue-wise. And so I literally took a business that was going bankrupt, and now we're pretty much balling.
Wow. Congratulations, man.
And it's not because I'm a great salesperson. It's not because I'm super anointed. It's not because I'm anybody like super special, although those things have some relevance to them.
Yeah.
I'm a man who follows God's voice, and I followed what he told me, and I just kept doing what he told me, even when it didn't make sense.
Yeah.
And I lived my life by integrity and excellence. And over time, the Lord began to open up doors for me. But there was years there. See, a lot of people don't want to talk about the process to become wealthy, to become, when I say wealthy, I mean having more than enough God in your life to do everything you need to do, having more enough resources, money, connections, equipment, whatever the case may be, whatever you need for your purpose and plan for your life. God has resources set aside for you, but you can't go out there and white knuckle and doing your own and expect to get those resources.
Exactly. You have to
There's
ask.
people that think that you have to ask, and you have to steward what you have. You have to manage what you have correctly, and God will give you more. And that's what's happened in my life. Not only do I have wealth as far as financially, we're doing very well. Business-wise, we're doing very well. But see, the way I raise my kids, there's peace in my home. My marriage takes work, but there's peace within my marriage. My kids are honoring God even at 2 and 4 years old. My 4-year-old is actually able to discern the inner voice of her own conscience from God's voice. And she'll even tell me, Daddy, I feel like God is telling me this. Well, how do you know? Well, it doesn't sound like my voice. It's coming in my head, but it sounds like God's voice. And it's just because she's developed this relationship with God even at a young age.
Wow.
So I'm showing people that anybody can do it. It doesn't matter the age. I've come back so many times and reimagined and dreamed another dream so many times. No one has an excuse. I got out of federal prison, broke, busted, disgusted, convicted felon, living with my parents, but God. But I had God, and I had a relationship with him. And that's why even when I meet homeless people, man, I give them my book, and I say, man, read this book. Begin to hear God's voice. I'm not saying it's going to change overnight, because it didn't for me.
Yeah.
But I was one step away from being homeless, but God. But it's not like, oh, I just went to church. It means I followed God every day of my life, and he led me into triumph. He led me into victory. He led me into a prosperity that only I can live, that my wife can live. And he'll do the same thing for every single person out there. It just looks different for everybody. Yeah. Am I gonna be a multi-billionaire like Bill Gates? I don't know, but I don't think so. Maybe a multi-millionaire. Yeah,
I'll take that.
everybody's looks different.
Yeah.
And just instead of comparing yourself to other people, which happens in business all the time, I'm guilty of it, at least on a weekly basis. Yeah. God convicts me of the trap of comparison.
Yeah.
And what I do is I get my eyes back on what he's blessed me with and the resources I have. And I began to say, okay, what can I do? How can I better work with the resources that God has given me and continue to just do the next right thing and run my own race? I tell people, there's a race only you can run. You can't run somebody else's race. You got to run your own race. Yeah. It's all right to look at somebody's life and be like, hey, I'd like to emulate and model some of the things that they've done. But when you get into comparison and jealousy and envy, it doesn't lead anywhere good.
Yeah. And you know what?
It's not a good driver.
Absolutely. And you know what? I'm glad that you said all that, because I was just having this conversation just yesterday with a good buddy of mine. He's like a brother to me. His name is Raji Parker. Shout out to Raji. His son plays out here in Rancho Cucamonga for the high school. He's a football player. And we were talking about the same thing, and we were going more in depth about, hey, I told him I believe some of the best businessmen are athletes who turn businessmen, like the Jamal Mashburns, the obviously the Magic Johnsons, the Michael Jordans. Yes. Now, yeah, Jordan maybe not so much with the NBA, the owner part, but I mean he's an excellent businessman with the shoe and everything. LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, God rest his soul. The reason why we're so good is because it causes, even though there is competition out there, the world is competition. It's predator versus prey. We understand that, you know what I mean? But at the same time, as an athlete, it teaches you to work on yourself, to be better. If you're better yourself, you can beat the next man. You don't worry about what the next man is doing. You plan and you plan for the adversary and see what his moves are. It's chess. You understand? See what's going on. But you work on yourself. You be a better self. You be your better self for mentally, spiritually, health-wise. Health, you have to definitely put health in there, because it doesn't make sense to make all this money and you giving it all to the doctors just to go to the next day or next week or whatever, right? So everything that you just said, man, it wasn't just a motivational speech. You were actually talking to me just now, and I know everybody else can hear this on the other side of this screen. Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome, man. And my whole story is, if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah,
that's the whole thing. And people see the success that I've had, and I love what Denzel said. If you want to have the success that you think I've had, then do what I've done.
There you go.
And I'm not saying that I've done what Denzel has done, but I love what he said there in one of his speeches.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't want to hear about the process. They don't want to hear about the government assistance.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to hear about you being homeless. They want to hear the glory story.
Exactly.
And then they opt out on their own dream, because they're like, oh well, they just see the glory, but they don't want to hear about the process it took you to get to that glory.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is you look at all the great people that started out in their garage.
Yep.
Bill Gates started out in his garage.
Walt Disney. Yep.
Owner of Amazon started out in his garage.
Yep.
Don't despise the small beginnings.
Yeah.
Because Jeff Bezos, people probably laughed at him when he was starting to sell books.
Yes, he did.
But his ultimate goal wasn't to sell books. His ultimate goal was product fulfillment.
There you go.
And he knew if he could master the book game, then he was just building it for a bigger trap.
There you go.
A bigger business that he had in his mind.
Wow.
But he started out with selling books.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well,
so if they can do it, if I can do it, if you can do it, anybody can do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand that there's going to be a process, and there's going to be a sacrifice, and there's going to be something you're going to have to give up. You're going to have to give up time.
Yep.
You're going to have to give up energy.
Sleep.
You're going to have to.
Yep.
You're going to have to give up sleep.
Yep.
You're going to have to give up also some things that you might want to do that you really shouldn't be doing, or that you can't afford, but you shouldn't afford, because you need to be putting that into your business or into your dream. There's decisions I make. Yeah, I'd like to go get this,
mm-hmm.
but you know what? I need to put this into this that can make me some money, or they could garnish more influence, or they could sell more books, or they could change people's lives. And I'll put this on the shelf maybe next year when I make a little bit more money, or maybe when I save the X amount of dollars. I'll go ahead and put this little thing I want up there and get it and buy it.
Yeah.
So even in the daily decisions I make in managing my cash flow, I look at cost versus reward.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I can afford this. You start making a little more money, you can afford a lot of things.
Yeah.
But it's like the Apostle Paul said, all things are legal, but all things aren't profitable.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, when I first started out, my wife, we started her out in like a little Chevy Traverse. She did what she needed to do, took care of that. We grew our business and things like that, and now she's got a Cadillac.
There you go. She got what she wants. Yeah.
Cadillac.
There you go.
We didn't start out in the 600.
There you go.
We didn't start out in a 600 Cadillac, but that, and my wife's like, "Sterling, you should get a new truck." I'm like, "No, I'm good with the little Chevy truck I got.
Yeah, I'm
good. It's a 2020. It runs. I'm good."
That's all that matters. Like, yeah. They get you from point A to point B. It's all good.
Exactly, bro. I'm not trying to look. I'm not trying to impress anybody. I got my little Chevy truck.
There you go.
And if you think I need a BMW to do business with you, well, you can kick rocks.
There you go. Absolutely. And then another thing to hit on that point that you said too. Social media has really screwed up the mentality of a lot of people, because they'll see somebody, and people don't even understand there's clips out there, right? So they'll see somebody post something, maybe a 2-minute video, a 30-second video, a 45-second video, where they'll say 1 second it'll show, or for the first 20 seconds, it'll show, okay, I put in this trade and my bank balance, my balance in my equity in my account was $500, something like that, right? And then they'll show 20 seconds later, $50,000 in there. But you're not showing the process. You're showing beginning and results. Yes, the results is 50,000, but show the whole thing. You know what I mean? So they're really screwing up the whole mind of young people, because the young people don't want to work no more. They don't understand grinding, focus, perseverance, dedication. It takes all of that to get to that level. And then it takes even more to maintain at the level and go to the next level.
To keep it, bro. Did he keep the 50 grand? That's the key.
Thank you.
How long do you hold on to 50 grand? Because there's a whole bunch of traders that took their life during the 2008 recession.
Yes, they did.
Jumped out of windows because they pushed the wrong button.
There you go. Wow.
We got a lot of years, but some of the people went to Harvard, all kinds of stuff. They're sitting over there losing a couple $100 billion. So it's one of those things that, people have to understand there's a process, bro, and there's something there, and there's no get rich quick schemes, and that social media is an edited form of life.
Thank you.
It is. And it's so easy to scroll on social media and play this game of comparison, or, man, why isn't God blessing me like that? When it's an edited form of life.
Yes.
So don't spend your life scrolling, spend your life living, and be the person that people scroll about. Like I have a social media team. So I mean, literally I have a team that makes me look cool.
Yes.
Or as cool as they can make me.
Yes.
But at the same time, bro, it's an edited form of life.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a real person. I'm real, but at the same time, nobody's gonna put their argument with their wife on social media.
No, they're not.
You're not gonna put when you got smashed that one day at work, where everything fell apart. You're not gonna go and post about that.
No.
I will talk about that because people need to understand. Man, there's lumps, there's losses, there's a process. Marriage is hard. Raising kids is hard. Man, running a business and keeping it running, and not going bankrupt and keeping what you got, man, it's hard. People are always looking to part you and your money.
Yeah.
And somebody's always looking to take your position in business.
Yep.
They're always looking to take it. They're always looking to usurp you.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So you got to be on your grind at all times, man. Don't be paranoid, but be aware.
Absolutely.
Be aware.
Talk about your book a little bit, How to Hear God's Voice. Go deep into that. I know you kind of talked about it a little bit, but if the average reader, someone like I read a lot, but someone who wants to, okay, Sterling, I want to get your book. What am I going to learn in this book? And when I'm reading your book here.
So the book is a holistic approach.
Okay.
In how you can have a spiritual relationship with God. This book is not a religious book. It's not a theoretical book.
Okay.
You're not going to get some theoretical mumbo jumbo that you can't apply. This book is a how-to, step-by-step, and it fills in all the process blanks. Like you heard me and Julia so many times on this podcast talk about process.
Yep.
Well, I take hearing God's voice, and I walk you step by step through it. But also, as I'm walking you step by step, I also talk about all the pitfalls, all of the sidetracks that happen, all of the different things that can go wrong and right. I talk about how this is a process, and I lead you through that process with practical examples, models, patterns, testimonies, scripture, and a how-to step-by-step. And I don't assume anything. Like I define the word love. I define the word intimacy. I define the word faith. All throughout the book, I'm defining Christianese terms that people have used. And I actually tell people, this is actually what that means.
Okay.
Like people say, how do I take a thought captive is a Christianese term.
Yes. How
do you manage this thing right here? How do you manage your mind, will, and emotions? We teach you a 3-step process.
Okay.
So in this book, because if you are constantly thinking the wrong thing, it's going to be very hard for God to speak to you through the filter of your mind, will, and emotions.
Yeah.
So the cleaner your heart is, the cleaner your soul is, the more in line this thing is as far as just being at peace, then the more clearly and accurately you're going to hear God, and the better life you're going to live. I'm actually writing a book right now, How to Master Your Mind Made Simple. And that'll be the next book that I'm coming out with is How to Master Your Mind made simple. And so it's like a super quick read, 75, 95 pages.
Okay.
The audiobook will probably be less than 2 hours long, just very quick, to the point, step-by-step processes. And what we like to do is we like to give people strategies that they can implement and immediately
There you go.
and get massive results in their life. That's what we're all about, because that's what God is about.
Yes.
That's what God is about. He's about implementing things in your life that you can get massive results in.
Yeah. And it's funny that thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for your books, and thank you for breaking that down. I'm definitely about to purchase the book here today, How to Hear God's Voice. But also your new book that's coming out. I can't wait to read that one as well. Does your strategies apply to anything? So if somebody is struggling in business, somebody struggling with depression, somebody struggling with health, you could take those same strategies and implement them to different problems that an individual is having. Is that how that goes as well?
Yes.
Okay.
The strategies work in any weather.
Okay.
Like taking thoughts captive, and like we teach a 3-step process. The thought comes in, we help you become aware of the thought. Like what is a negative or unwanted thought? It's anything that is counter to God's love, his character, his nature, anything that's negative, fear-based, anything that's not benefiting your life. That thought comes in, you say in your mind, I refuse that thought in Jesus' name. That's not the way I think anymore. And you just reject the thought. That gets the snowball effect in the negative sense to stop. Then the second step is a forgiveness exchange. God, I'm just releasing this to you. And God, forgive me for thinking that way. God, and I receive your forgiveness. What are you doing? You're practicing forgiveness in the second step. You're practicing releasing the person, place, or thing that irritated you, frustrated, whatever the case may be. I work these steps on my employees, the people I deal with on a daily basis, my wife, my kids, myself, all the time. I'm constantly working these 3 steps. And the third step, you get offensive, where you pray the opposite of whatever the negative thought is. In business, there's a lot of times that have these thoughts, well, what if it doesn't happen? Or what if this deal doesn't close? Or what if this doesn't turn around or that turn around, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
I'll just say, Lord, I thank you that you're blessing this business. I thank you that you're surrounding this person that's making this decision with your love and your wisdom. God, I thank you. You're giving me a strategy to fix this business. And I may say that 30 times a day, because I may get 30 thoughts a day that my business is going under.
Affirmations.
But I got to declare with my mouth, with my mind, it's going over. What is that doing? It's helping you have a healthy thought life.
There you go.
And as your thought life goes, as your mind, will, and emotions go, if that's the predominant way you're thinking, thus your life will go.
There you go.
Your life will go in the direction of your predominant thinking.
Thoughts are things.
And so that's a strategy that works in business. It works with your kids. It works with your spouse. It works in your job in general. If you don't own a business, it's your job. I mean, how many people have people at their job that get on their nerves, or their boss, gets on their nerves, or they'd like something to change, and they get angry and bitter and things like that at work. Usually everybody at work has at least one person that gets on their nerves.
Yes.
And if you don't know anybody, you might be that wrong person. You might be the person.
Wow.
So it's one of those things, man, that these strategies work in any weather.
Wow.
And what happened is over the years of being in prison and being out of prison, I got so fed up with religion that I began just to write down what I felt like worked, what God's voice sounded like, what my voice, my own conscience sounded like, what it felt like to get a vision or get an inward picture of something, what the inner unction of the Holy Spirit, what the gut feeling felt like, what it sounded like, the thought impressions I got. And I developed that into a strategy that I use myself, and I tweaked that strategy over time. Then I began to teach those strategies to other people. They began to get massive results. And then the feedback they would give me where they were struggling, it allowed me, God showed me patterns within that. And I was able to fill in the blanks of stumbling blocks people could have in whatever strategy I was trying to implement. And so basically the strategies in this book have been tested over time, over people of all backgrounds and all ages. I mean, the strategy, not only is it from the Bible, but it works in any weather. And it's not just it's not Christianese.
Yes.
It's rubber meets the road, practical information, practical strategies written in real world, you and me, one-on-one, very simple language. Nothing. I don't leave anything to chance.
Wow, there's two people that I listened to growing up, especially during my entrepreneur journey, Les Brown and Jim Rohn. Les Brown said, I'm sorry. Jim Rohn said, it's not the blowing of the wind that determines your life destination, it's the set of the sail. And he was talking about setting your mind on what you just said, practical focus on what you want. Don't say I'm having a bad day. Say I'm having a character building day. That came from Les Brown. So I love it. Absolutely. Reframe it. Exactly. So I love your practical strategies that you implement in your book and for your mentees and for your employees and everything. Two more things, because we're well over time right here, but thank you for your time, man. I really appreciate it. I just want your thought on this one, and then the last one, the last question here. What's your thought on AI? I just want to see what your thought is on that, because I have mixed thoughts about it, but what's your thoughts on artificial intelligence?
Well, it's here.
Yeah.
And I like this. I actually have the chat GPT.
Yeah.
I have the app, and it's amazing what AI can do. Like it's really, 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 really scary, amazing what it can do.
Okay.
I think that it can help humanity. I also think that people can have a tendency to get lazy and let AI do a lot of the work. I use AI in my workflow and in ministry flow, basically to help me spark ideas and kind of bounce things back and get kind of extrapolate things more. So I use it more in my workflow as some idea sparkers, or I just use it to kind of make my creative process a little more streamlined.
Okay.
And I think when people use it like that, in whatever the case may be, whether it's to get you a clearer picture in television, or whether it's to make your iPhone work better, or whether it's to make your workflow work better, whatever the case may be, AI can do a lot. I think that as long as we keep it, like that, and try to I think that we need to instill in our kids, especially, that you don't need to lean on AI. You need to co-create with AI and use it as something you can kind of co-create with, that can help your overall workflow and creative flow.
Yeah.
But don't lean on it to think for you.
Yeah.
The other part of AI that is concerning, which I've been praying about, is just the people that are developing AI. I've been really praying for them and the developers, that God would give them a moral compass, and just to make sure, because AI is here, and it's the wave of the future, and we're actively looking at AI investments, actively, and so it's one of those things that I think it's the next big thing, is AI. And I think it's here a lot faster than a lot of people thought. Even the people that have been in AI for 20 or 30 years, as creative and as interesting and as fast as it's gotten here, I think has amazed a lot of people. But I think it's something that people shouldn't shy away from. They should be educated about. They should also utilize and use. They should not lean on entirely. They should not let it be an excuse for laziness, but also use the tools that you have. As far as AI taking over and, Terminator 2 Judgment Day coming to pass, it's a lot more real than people might think.
Yeah.
When a partner in Google, who's been doing something for 50 years, steps down from a multi-million-dollar position and an immense amount of stock options. His stock options are worth way more than they could ever pay him.
Absolutely.
When somebody like that steps down, just to make people more aware of how dangerous AI could be in the wrong hands.
Yep.
You best believe, bro, you need to pay attention to that.
Yeah.
For real. When he stepped down,
yeah,
I was like, that man just walked away from millions.
Not just him. A lot of big corporations stepped down. A lot of them.
There was
did.
a couple of them, but that dude was like, he was like the dude. He was like the man. And he was a Google partner.
Yeah.
I mean, just every year his stock options alone are probably worth, $20 or $30 million.
Exactly.
It's crazy. When he stepped down, bro, money talks.
Yes.
So when I see somebody do something like that, I'm like, hey,
I'm paying close attention. Yes. I'm glad you said that, because that was my thought on it. As far as I love a lot of the AI, because I use ChatGPT as well. I love a lot of the good components about it, but like you said, the moral compass of the person who's creating the AI. Now, this is my personal belief. I'm not casting. This is just what Julius Hammond believes. I don't believe AI, robots, and all that stuff needs to be in every industry or every certain things. I mean, we could take iRobot. We could do. You already mentioned Terminator. I don't want to take the human element all the way out of it, because when you do that, like you said, it makes people lazy, but it also gives 100%. Credit or responsibility to the AI or to the robot. This goes on YouTube, so I won't go too deep into it as far as the conspiracy or whatever. But if you create a robot and then they go out and they murder someone or whatever, and now we can't prosecute them. You could prosecute a human being and take them through trial. All you got to do is disconnect the robot or say we're going to build a better one. But this mother's child is now gone. You reading between the lines what I'm saying, right? So I don't want to.
I mean, if you don't believe the man, watch Boston Dynamics. Google Boston Dynamics soldier robot, and you will trip out.
Exactly.
Like, it's serious, bro.
So I just don't want to take the human element 100% out of it. I'm for the robot. I'm for the AI, especially when helping you with certain things, because the positive part, like you said, it's unfortunate. It's getting rid of a lot of people. As far as their job wise, but for an entrepreneur like me and yourself, we don't have to pay health care. We don't have to pay certain things. We can keep that in our pocket, because the robot, will not take up that expense or whatever. But, at the end of the day, like you said, you want to make sure that the person who is creating the robots or creating the AI, their moral compass is intact. You know what I mean? They're not working for the dark side. They're over here with Jesus and the light and Yahweh and everything like that. So I just want to get your thoughts on that, what you thought about the AI version.
And the biggest thing is, man, we need to be investing 50% in AI advancement and 50% in AI security. Because the cybersecurity is crazy. Guy lives in my neighborhood. He's a cybersecurity for the federal government. And it's crazy how many municipalities and things like that get attacked. Imagine now when that AI finally gets in the hands of criminals, and you're, like you said, if you remove too much of the human element, these robots can get hacked.
Yes, they can.
Like, even if the people, people say, oh, they can't. Well, yeah, bro. If they can, I know gigantic businesses.
Yep.
Like, I know one of my businesses, it's a multi-billion-dollar business. They got hacked last year.
See,
and totally shut down their system for 2 or 3 days.
Yes.
And the guy held them for ransom and things like that. They ended up having to totally redo. They didn't pay the ransom. They just spent tens of millions of dollars redoing their entire system, which was terrible.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that AI can do, but you also have to realize that there's people out there that will use AI as criminals. So they're only using like maybe 10 to 15% right now of AI production dollars in security. They're using the majority of it in advancement. And I believe the guy at Google brought this up, is that he's like, I'm bringing awareness that we need to put more money into AI security.
Yes.
So I'm really hoping they heed that warning, because you can make it go fast and strong, but there's also people out there that are hackers that are very, very, very good at what they do.
Yes.
And they're up on AI as well. And, they'll be knocking at your door, not in a good way.
There you go. Well, thank you for that. Last question for you. Where can they find you? how can someone reach out to you? Sterling, I want to donate to your ministry. I want to buy your book. Obviously, you said Amazon and all that stuff, but I want to get mentored by you. Whatever program you got, how can people find you? Social medias, websites? Let the audience know.
So we're on a gambit we're on all the social media. It's all at Sterling Harris. We're on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. We're on Twitter. We don't do a whole bunch on Twitter, but like we're releasing a free masterclass. It starts actually today. Today at 7:30 p.m. will be the first session. It'll be 8 sessions released over the next 8 days, and we're just releasing that and sewing that in to our Facebook, our YouTube followers and subscribers and people on Facebook. We're sewing that into people for free. So this is where I basically coach you for 8 sessions on various topics on hearing God's voice and the same strategies that I've used to turn around my life from, living with my parents fresh out of federal prison to, a six-figure business person and an 8-figure business revenue person. And so it's one of those things that these strategies work in any weather, and following God's voice works in all weather. And so you can catch us at sterlingharris.org with our website. It has all of our stuff on there. But if you go to any of our handles, are all Sterling Harris Ministries, at Sterling Harris Ministries. So please come check us out. Be part of our family. Be part of our following. Be part of our community, and plug in with other people that also believe that hearing God's voice can lead them into their ultimate success position, which looks different for everybody.
Well. Thank you, Sterling, man. I appreciate it. We got a bit of a late start here or whatever, but you know what? God is a God that is always on time, and, he make things happen. And this was a beautiful interview. I loved your story. When Julie told me about your story, I was like, man, I gotta interview this guy, man. He outside of the NFL, you resemble my story when it comes to, people taking money and all this other stuff and persevering and everything. But thank you for your time, man. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for your effort. And thank you for being a man of God and doing God's work, brother. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Man, Julius, I see why your influence as God has really breathed on your influence. This is one of the most interesting podcasts I've ever been on. I've been on a whole bunch of them.
Thank you.
And this is one of the most interesting interviews I've ever had. And so I just want to just say God bless you and your ministry and the people that follow you. And I just want to encourage you guys, keep following Julius. He's asking the right questions. He's asking the right people the right questions. And you following this podcast is going to give you the wisdom and the edge that you need to have your own wealth and for you to be your own wealth champion in the right context. So God bless you, Julius. Thank you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. One last thing. I know I said last question. One last thing. Where are you located at, man? Because I want to have lunch with you, man. I'm actually going to be in Austin next month. So if you're there, or I mean, I know I don't know if you're Austin, but Texas is a big thing. But I could drive anywhere. But I want to come and have some lunch with you, man, and sit down and chop shop a little bit, build a relationship. I'm a relationship builder, so.
Bro, it's a wrap. Then I live maybe 35 minutes outside Austin. So bro,
you messed up, man.
We're going to lunch. We're going to chop it up kingdom style. You feel me?
There we go. Thank you again. I appreciate you, Sterling. Thank you so much, man. Thank you for blessing my platform, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, God bless you, man. Thank you so much.
All right, now. All right, guys. There you have it, man. We had an ex-NFL player who became an ex-felon because of a bad business deal, but now he's on fire for the kingdom of heaven. His book is called How to Hear from God. It's on Amazon, it's on Barnes & Nobles, and wherever books are sold. Also, make sure you check out Sterling Harris Ministries and any other platform that he's on, all his social medias, all that. Until then, I love you. I love you. I love you with the love of the Lord. Julius Hammond, Wealth Champs. Love you, family. Peace.